Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We have now concluded the ministerial meeting of the Barents Euro-Arctic Council meeting. That has concluded the Swedish presidency of the organization, and I've handed over to Norway, which will take us the next few years up to the coming meeting in Kiruna. I think we've had a very good meeting where we have looked back on what has been done during the last few years. We have adopted a declaration. We are having a work program for the next few years. I'm not going to say very much, just say, before I ask Kiruna to say a couple of words. I think the big change that has happened during the years of this council, not only due to the council, is that this region has moved from being on the periphery of Europe to the center of its economy, and also on other issues, environmental and others. So we are now a central part of European efforts, be that in economic areas or be that in other areas. And that has made our cooperation even more important. I think the cooperation that we have here in the Barents region and in the Arctic region, of course, between the Nordic Council, we have it a lot anyhow, but we have a particular reason to note that up here we have very good functioning practical cooperation with the Russian Federation in a number of different areas, and we look forward to extending that even further. So I'm particularly pleased to see every minister here, as that no discrimination, everyone equally welcome. And ask Jonas as the Commissionership to perhaps say a couple of words.
Well, first I'd like to thank LKAB for hosting us underground. We have gone underground for this session. And I think it's illustrating what Carl Bildt said, that here is an illustration of an economic potential in this region. The mineral focus of the Swedish presidency will be taken forward by the Norwegian chair. We will also chair the Barents Council as we head to 2013, 20 years after the inception of this cooperation, which gives us an opportunity to look ahead another 20 years, and in close consultation regionally among governments, we will try to outline some of the visions for the next 20 years of this cooperation. The core of what we have achieved, I think, is to be found in the people-to-people cooperation in the Barents region. I quoted in our meeting that the cross-border travel between Norway and Russia has gone from a few thousand in 1990 to close to 200,000 this year. And the good thing about the Barents cooperation is that it has been pragmatic and focused on problem solving for the challenges that ordinary people and businesses meet when they cross borders. So we will take forward our work with a very strong focus on value for effort, that we promote sustainable development of human resources and natural resources in this region. An increased focus on infrastructure that is not only north-south but also east-west, and a close cooperation between governments and between local and regional bodies and counties. We will work closely with Nordbotten, who will head the regional cooperation, to take forward the genuine nature of the Barents cooperation, which is standing out, in my view, as one of the most successful sub-regional cooperations in Europe.
Please.
Wait for the microphone.
There's a microphone there.
Thank you. I'm from the Norwegian Broadcasting Company. Morten Ruud is my name. I have a question to Mr. Lavrov and to Mr. Støre. First to Mr. Lavrov. How do you consider the conflict going between Norway and Russia in the fishery protection zone around Spitsbergen? And what is that Russia want to achieve now? And to Støre, the Russians have asked Norway to take this problem up in the fishery commission, yes. And they also asked for how Norway treats the Russian fishermen, but did not show up in Kaliningrad. Why is that? And also, why do you say that this conflict is a police matter and not a political matter, although Russia demands it to be like that? Thank you.
Well, first of all, I wouldn't call it a conflict. I would call it the situation which needs to be clarified. And it needs to be clarified and must be clarified on the firm legal basis, including, first of all, the 1920 Treaty on Spitsbergen, and including the Russian-Norwegian agreements and treaties related to this particular situation. There is a mechanism to resolve all the questions which arise from time to time, and this is the Joint Bilateral Fisheries Commission. We discussed this situation with Minister Störe, and we agreed to ask our representatives, the experts attending the Joint Fisheries Commission, to look into the specific situations and to agree on the technical procedures which will make sure that all violators are prevented from continuing to violate the rules existing in this area for fishing, and also ensuring that the measures taken are adequate and proportionate. I am sure that this is the way to handle this situation.
Well, I can second every word that the Russian foreign minister said. And I think as ministers, it's our role to give political impetus to this cooperation, which has been extremely successful. Norway and Russia, together at different levels, have been able to manage its common fishery resources in these waters in a way that has made it possible to increase quotas to the benefit of the fishing industry. And we would like to do everything we can to have transparency around the way we control and monitor that rules are being respected. And we will apply an even-handed approach to fishing vessels from all countries, including my own, including from Norway, if there is suspicion of violation of rules. And then we have an excellent fishery commission where we are able to raise all issues if there is a need for clarification. And that is going on just as we speak, as the Commission meets in Kaliningrad. Norwegian representatives there are competent to comment on every issue which is relating to this. And we as foreign ministers will do what we can to make our contribution to that good cooperation.
A question for everyone. What is the biggest problem you have to solve in this area for the next years?
Why don't we start with Erki?
And you know, there are outstanding problems. There are huge opportunities which have been identified in the various interventions, and everyone knows them. But at the same time, there are very well-founded concerns that the economic opportunities which are opening in the region have to be dealt with in an environmentally responsive manner, and take in particular account of the situation of the indigenous peoples. So they need a very firm balance which does not in any way threaten the environment, because we all know that this is one of the most vulnerable regions in the world concerning environmental challenges. But I prefer to look at the opportunities that are going to be opening in many, many fields.
I agree about the opportunities. I would say the biggest challenge overall is how to handle climate change. Because we know that this region is going to suffer its part of it, more largely than in other parts of the globe. And that illustrates that both we need to develop our industrial activity in accordance with the principles of sustainable development and the vulnerable Arctic environment, and we need to transmit to the world the knowledge that we can extract from what we observe of climate change. One initiative that the Swedish presidency worked on and that we will look into is how we deal with black carbon, a pollutant of short-lived climate pollutants, which are extremely powerful, but it's possible to deal with them. So we have to be concrete and focused in the way we deal with these issues. When it comes to the opportunities, there are so many that they don't represent the problem. There, I think, the sky is the limit. But we have to manage that in a way which takes due account of people who live here, indigenous people, and the global climate.
Well, I would endorse everything which was said. I don't see problems, in the sense of problems which are interfering with our cooperation. On the contrary, the opportunities presented by the global developments require concentrated, concerted efforts by all countries in this region to make sure that we protect the environment better, that we use more energy efficient, energy saving technologies, that we rely more and more on green technologies, on green economy, clean economy methods. The climate change, of course, requires necessary steps to make sure that this does not affect the conditions of the people who live here. But the climate change also opens up the opportunities from the point of view of new transport routes. And the Northern Sea route is becoming more and more available for around-the-clock use. There is a forecast that by the year 2020, the total volume of goods, of cargo transported by Northern Sea route would amount to more than 60 million tons. And the Russian Federation is developing a law which would be regulating all aspects of the use of the Northern Sea route, making it available for the international usage. And one example of this type of activities is the cruise on board of the nuclear-powered icebreaker last August, with the participation of all the countries present here. They spent 5 days going by Northern Sea route, and I think this type of scientific and cooperative effort is going to be very important. All in all, we are convinced that everything we do here must be concentrated on the one single major goal, making sure that the people who live here continue to do so in as comfortable conditions as ever possible.
Opportunities. And I think we need to think big about the future of this region. If we look at what's been happening in the last few years, we see that opportunities are far greater than many of us thought. I think ahead of us they are even greater. And I would say that one of the key requirements for really using them, fully utilizing them, is that we network everything that we do more than we've done so far. I think the experience is that the more we network our industries, our universities, our governing activities up here, our intellectual efforts, the more we increase their effectiveness. Jonas and I used the example of how Kiruna and Narvik are dependent upon each other, wouldn't exist without each other. And the same would apply gradually for the entire region. So network, 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 and think big about the future of the region.
This is TV2 Norway. I have another question for Lavrov, and we are going back to the fisheries protection zone around the islands of Svalbard.
Can you speak louder?
Louder.
Yeah, if I can have, this is a question for Mr. Lavrov. And we are going back to the fisheries protection zone around Svalbard. The Treaty of 1920 doesn't say anything about the 200-mile zone around the islands. So I was just wondering, are you looking at this area as international territory, or do you acknowledge that this is a territory of Norway? And I would also like, Mr. Bild, can you tell me, does Sweden acknowledge the 200-mile fisheries protection zone around the islands of Svalbard? Thank you.
I already clearly stated that the firm basis on which all issues must be regulated is the Treaty of 1920 and bilateral intergovernmental agreements. I have nothing to add.
And I can, without going into the legalities of it, but just say that we have full confidence in the way in which Norway manages the resources and the environment and the protection duties up there. Final question, perhaps, to Radio Sweden.
You spoke about the infrastructure in the east-west direction. What are you actually practically going to do to get better communication in that direction?
Well, I think we looked yesterday at the railway to Narvik. Evidently more needs to be done, more will be done. There is a discussion on the railway links further to the east. That discussion is ongoing. I think that's one of the issues where there is a huge potential to extend it. We have the remnants of the division between the Russian Empire of the old times with this different railway system and ours, to have the networking between the two of them, then extend it more efficiently into the Russian Federation, and then onwards to Asia and China. That's clearly one of the opportunities that we have in the future.
Can I add to that? I think that if you look at the way resources here have been going to markets, they've been going south. I think increasingly we can also see a potential of going east-west. For example, were there to be more gas coming out of the Barents Sea, Russian side, Norwegian side, there's the vision of seeing gas meeting minerals. Now, as Carl said, I think we have to think big. It's not for tomorrow, but in the next 20, 30 years, this potential may arise if it is being done environmentally friendly, respecting emissions, CO2 curbs. We can have a potential of electricity grid going east-west and natural resources going east-west for increased value-added input, which is, I think, is a fascinating scenario.
By that, thanks very much.